I understand you're doing the eulogy? And I'm like, what? Again, with the what? You know? And I'm like, I am? And he goes, well, your wife said you wanted to say something. He goes, do you have anything prepared? And I'm like, yeah, I got little notes, you know. He goes, then you're doing a eulogy. I'm like, okay. So Pastor Rob and Pastor Raphael were there, which we weren't expecting Raphael. And, you know, we had the service, and I did the eulogy, and afterwards, you know, I told some stories about Craig and stuff, and explained his hard life, and, you know, how he came to faith and where he was. And I'm almost done. I maybe got like 10 more minutes. So after the service, Pastor Rob, I say to him, hey, you remember we met like 4 years ago, you know? Of course he didn't remember, but I did because it was Rob Kruger, you know? So he goes, why don't you, and you know him, right? Instead of the handshake, it's the hug. So he comes up and gives me a big hug. This is on a Wednesday. He comes up and gives me a big hug, and he goes, why don't you come over to church sometime? And I said, yes, I need to. And we've been coming ever since. So that's about 1.5 years now at ZCC. So my main concern, right? I didn't know it when it was the smaller membership. All I know is the 1,000 people or whatever. And I was really concerned that I come to this church and I'm like, wow, I could get lost here. I could just be another face. Even though we kind of thought we had this relationship with Rob because of Craig. And I remember going to Good Friday service, the first one, and it was packed. And I sat there, I went by myself, and I kind of milled around a little bit at the back, you know, went to the bathroom, kind of like just looked. I'm like, wow, this is a lot of people. And I waited a little while, and Pastor Rob was talking to somebody else. And then I walked up to approach him. He goes, I saw you out there, right? So once he said that, I'm like, okay, so I'm not just the face that's going to get lost in the crowd, you know? So basically when he went on his sabbatical and everything, you know, we were there when his send-off, when he came back, you know, I remember it was all about love with him, you know? It was great. So I said, okay, this is my church. So I went through the membership program, and again, I'll go to like April, May, more to 222. Actually, so April of 2016, for me, a lot of it is anxiety. I don't know how all you other guys deal with anxiety, but for some things, and I know that my problems in life, compared to other people's problems, they're like up here through the roof, and mine are here, they're not that big of a deal. And when I come to that like conclusion and I say that to myself, then it kind of puts everything in perspective. But there's still problems, you know, everybody has them. So one night I was real anxious about my dog, who's getting a little older now, and he wasn't feeling well. And, you know, again, in Matthew it says, go to your quiet place and pray to the Lord, and you'll be answered. So I have two. One's my bedroom, or spare room, and one is, for some reason, the steps going into my cellar. I'll just close the door behind me, and I'll sit down on the steps, and I'll say a couple prayers sometime. So I just asked the Lord to help calm my anxiety about my dog, because wow, he's up there, I don't know how much longer he has to live, you know, he's sick and everything. So I walk upstairs, all of a sudden he flies off the bed, he comes running down, you know, like all full of life, like he's a 6-month-old puppy, you know. And again, it's one of those, okay, this is like the instant answer to your prayers kind of thing. So I had another dream, 222, I won't bore you with that. But in October of 2017, I was on Stelton Road, if anybody knows where that is, Piscataway, where the Quick Check is. And I drive an F-150 for work, and I was heading, I guess, toward Dunellen, so I had a Quick Check on my right, and there was one car in front of me, and we stopped at the crosswalk for people to cross from the other side to get over to the Quick Check. And I was just sitting there, and I was looking at the cars coming the other way, and I was thinking, are they gonna stop as well? So just as I thought that, all of a sudden this guy, I don't think he hit the brakes, but he rear-ended the truck, right? His airbag went off, my head went flying forward, and I was like, what the blank, you can fill in the blank for that word. And I get out and I look at it, and I see that his airbag went off, and if you can see like right here, and this spot over here, it basically hit the receiver hitch, and so that receiver hitch took all the impact of the crash, and to me, it like just all that energy just went from the receiver hitch straight through the truck, right? And also through me, and I don't think the guy hit the brakes, so 35 miles an hour or something like that. All I remember is the seatbelt hitting me and me thinking, what the heck is going on? So I went back to check on him. He was okay. His airbag went off. You're okay? You don't need anything? No, I'm all right. And I came back around to the passenger side of the truck, and I looked at this, and all of this stuff was in the back seat of the truck, right? And this box, that's a GPS unit, and it probably weighs about 10 pounds. And if you look down below there, there's maybe about 6 or 7 water bottles still in the plastic, and all my clothes and everything. So everything came flying over. So I walked around that side of the truck, and I had my elbows on that door, and I'm looking at them going, how did all that stuff from right in the center and behind me all wind up on the seat, right? This is kind of like where everything was. And if you see those shoes up on that box, those shoes were actually on the floor here. This is a backpack that was on the box, and that red box was on top of this blue box. So everything came flying over, right? Obviously with that big headrest, I don't know, it'd be hard to hit me in the head, but how did everything fall in the exact spot on the other side on the seat? Nothing hit me, nothing hurt me. And I could just say, well, the Lord was with me with this accident. And you know, when you get in a collision, you go forward and the seatbelt grabs, right? And a lot of times people get injured in their collarbone and their shoulder. Well, I had nothing. And it was a pretty good impact. So I told my wife this, and I'm like, you know, the Lord, guardian angel, maybe my friend Peter who's in heaven, somebody was with me there to direct all of that stuff away from me and onto that seat. So again, it's just, you know, for me, and I'm sure maybe a lot of you guys can understand this, you know, it's just God and Jesus working for me. That's my explanation for it all. And when I told my dream to a bunch of guys I work with, and I always like prefaced it with this, I said, this is what I take out of it. You can take it any way you want, but this is what I take out of it. And only the one guy said, you know, whoa, you spoke in tongues when you chanted Masapita Tankakanaya. And he also went home and told his wife, and his wife is like, well, why doesn't anything like that ever happen to me, right? And he goes, because you already believe. So I wasn't, I guess, a believer at that time, so I needed to be proven. And it's all about, you know, the whole journey starts in 1992, and now we're into 2017. So when I say the Lord's been working on me for a long time, he has. So obviously in February, Rob resigned, and Tyler and I actually had a hockey game to go to that day, and I get the emails, but I didn't really read the email about the Saturday service being canceled, so we never went to church that day. Because it was an afternoon hockey game, and they were giving away bobbleheads, and we don't want to miss out on the bobbleheads, right? Because one time before that, they were giving away Camilleri bobbleheads, I think, and I kind of like connive the devils a little bit. I buy tickets on StubHub on games where they're giving away tickets for other games. So I like pay for 3 games and I go to 8 sometimes, you know? So we went to a bobblehead night or a day game, and we brought my wife Marcy and my son's girlfriend, and I call it Marcy time basically. And I know I'm kind of getting off the subject here a little bit, but the only time we were on time for a church service at 11:30 was the first Sunday we came, because I read on the website that it gets very crowded. You should get here early, right? So we got here like 5 after, 10 after 11, and of course we walk into the center and there's nobody there. There's like 5 people. And my wife goes, what time does the service start, Steve? I go, 11:30? Then why are we here so early? I said, because the website said to come here early. So we came here early, right? We've never been on time since. Right? It's 11:40, it's 11:45, it's who knows what time. The only time I'm here on time is when I come by myself, and what I do is I take a picture of that countdown clock and I text it to her. I go, see, hon, I can make it on time, you can't, right? so I call it Marcy time, you know? So for this one hockey game, of course, you know, my wife and his girlfriend going, so it becomes Marcy time. And I'm thinking, we're getting 4 bobbleheads today, you know? And we get in and we get 0 because we're so late, all the bobbleheads are gone. So I told Tyler after that, I go, no more women coming to the hockey games. Just me and you. It's a guy thing. No more women, you know? And afterwards, we wanted to get something to eat, and we were driving around the Ironbound section in Newark. I'm like, let's go to Pepe's, let's go here, let's go here. My wife looks and goes, ew, I don't want to eat in there, right? So we wind up at 22, what's it called? Shogun 22, right? And just as we pull in, here comes this other car pulling in, and it's got like bumper stickers and license plate frames and everything. New Jersey Devils, New Jersey Devils, New Jersey Devils. And the 2 women get out, and they got Devils shirts on and Devils jackets and stuff. They wind up sitting at the same grill as we do, and this is actually, I wasn't really planning on telling this story, but it's kind of funny. They sat at the same grill as we did, but they sat across from us, right? And we got to talking. We're like, hey, did you get the bobbleheads? And the one woman was like, yeah, I got 2. You know, my husband passed away, but I still have his seat, so I get two bobbleheads. And I'm like, yeah, we got none. She's like, well, I'll give you one of mine. So I go, you don't have to do that. She goes, no, I have 2. I don't need 2 of them. Here, you can have one of mine. So she goes out and she brings it in, and we're like, great, thank you very much. You know, I told her the story, why we didn't get bobbleheads, because it's Marcy time and everything. So she gives us the bobblehead, and I said to the waitress, I go, you know what, put their drinks on my tab. Pretty clear, right? Put their drinks on my tab, right? And it was just the 6 of us at the table, and all of a sudden I get the bill, and she put their entire tab on mine. And I looked at her and went, and the woman sitting across from me must have seen it in my eyes when the bill was like $180, right? And she goes, ooh, did they put the entire tab on your bill? I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. I can't take it back, you know? She goes, no, we don't want that. You know, we clearly heard you say just put our drinks on your bill, so that's fine. You know, we'll pay for the rest. So that was just like another, you know, so the whole thing with 222 and the charitable and the giving and everything like that, you know, I've been that way for a while, but I wasn't as much as I am now, and I'm still, if this makes any sense, not as much as I want to be. I know there's way more I can do, and there's way more I should be doing. So, actually, so I only have 2 more points, and then maybe I'll close after that. I started playing softball. Is it going too long, guys? I'm sorry. I only got like 5 more minutes, I promise. So I started playing softball, right? And
it's 2:22.
Is it real? Oh, yeah, look at that. Hey, you know what? Maybe by the time we get out of here, it will be close to 2:22, right? So I wanted to play. I didn't know they had a softball team. I found out, and I reached out to Pastor Rich, and he's like, yeah, I'll put you in contact with somebody. And then Gunther winds up, you know, shooting me an email and saying, yeah, you guys play softball with us, you know? So I said, all right. So I show up for the first practice, and it turns out, and I'm sorry, Steve, but I don't remember your last name.
Sharp.
Okay, Sharp? That's easy. Why didn't I remember that? You told me that when we were on Division Street. So anyway, so they already had a Steve on the team. So when I showed up, I became Steve 2.0. So he was Steve 1.0, and I was Steve 2.0. And I think 1.0 is better than 2.0. So it got to the point where in all these text messages, I wasn't Steve 2.0 anymore. I was just 2.0. That's all I was. So now when the guys see me, they're like, hey, 2.0. And I'm like, yeah, 2.0. So after the season, I mean, I had a great time. I've gotten to know, kind of backtrack a little bit. I did the membership class. I did Alpha last year. I did Beta last year. I'm doing Alpha again with Josh this year, and Lou, and a bunch of other guys. And I know a lot of you other guys by face, by seeing you, maybe not by name. And obviously you didn't know my name either, but the fellowship and the love and the caring and everything that's in this church is just way beyond anything I could imagine. I don't, you know, it's really mind-blowing to me how much worship and how much fellowship there is in this church, you know, and with females as well, you know, and everything. It's awesome. It's an awesome church. So I started playing softball, and after the end of the season of softball, I'm a land surveyor and I go on construction sites a lot, so we were Omega Red. So at the end of the game, we'd all get together and go Omega! So I'm on a construction site, and I don't know how I got back to that. I get out of my truck, and there's a piece of twisted rebar, and that looks like the Omega symbol to me, right? So, and again, just reinforcement for me. That's kind of what it is. And one more thing, and we're all the way up into August of 2017 now, and I'm not where I want to be. I look at a lot of other people's faith, and sometimes I say, why aren't I like him, you know? I'm like almost getting one arm in the air during the service, you know? So it's kind of like right around here. It starts at my waist, it kind of gets up to around here. Maybe one day I'll have one, maybe two, who knows? And a lot of times when I pray, I thank the Lord for his patience with me, because it's taken how many years for me to be a believer and to get where I am. And then I think to myself, well, you know what? I'm right where the Lord wants me to be, and I'm right here at the time he wants me to be, in the place he wants me to be. So I'm very thankful for that. So August